Hello, 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 and welcome to another live coaching. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I had some stuff to do this morning. I hope everyone is good, and I want to know, where are you? Did you windsurf? What is going on? We had a lot happening in the windsurfing world. The Aloha Classic took place, which is not only the most prestigious windsurfing event of the year, but also the world title decider. So we have a new world champion, lots of exciting things going on. We got some video. Turn the sound off here. So this is the final. This was put together by Paul Van Bellen. If you're joining us, let us know where you're from. Did you sail this week? Say hi in the chat. We're going to watch a little bit of the final. I'm going to talk through it, and then we're going to get to the Facebook group. But I want to know, did you sail this week? How did it go? So this is ordered not in the order of the waves as they came, but in the scores from low to high. So this is the video that Paul Van Bellen did. He's got a great YouTube channel. If you're interested in windsurfing stuff, he is definitely one I recommend following. Yeah, so we're going to talk about some of these waves. Some of these little waves are not really that much worth talking about, but I am curious what you guys all thought. What did you think of the event? What did you think of the sailing? What did you think of the scoring? What was inspiring? What was your favorite moment? What were your thoughts? We're going to talk about these waves, but these little baby waves with not much happening on them, there's not a lot to say. Oh, yeah. So let's get into the chat. We've got a lot of people showing up. We got Dom Dom in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. We've got Greg as well. Good morning. Jorg is continuing with his rehab. We've got Mark as well. No win this week. Greg says no sailing. We got Matt. No win, no sailing, but this week looks promising. We got Suna. Hello from Denmark. No windsurfing this week. And Greg says he watched the Aloha as much as he could. Yeah, cool. So we're gonna get into this. So this wave, now we're starting to get into the waves that we're counting a little bit more, and so we can talk about these. So that's a really nice under the lip turn from Brasinho here, connecting it with another turn, but the wave is a little bit bumpy and whitewatery, and wave selection does play a role in the scoring. Beautiful tweaked air on that one, but really not that much to follow it up with. We've got Axel in the chat as well, getting his van pack for Tarifa. Ooh, that was nice from Burned. Beautiful. I really liked watching Burn. I always like watching Burn. He's one of my favorite riders to watch. We got Christoph and Waddell. All right, so here, let's do a little lesson on goiters and scoring of goiters, because this was a topic that came up during the competition. Harold says, hello, Harold. No sailing last week. All right, so let's look at this goiter. So there's different kinds of goiters. Robbie Swift, sailing amazing, did really well, top 4, amazing result, huge result. So I like Robbie, good friend, but we're going to analyze this goiter, and this is one of the most low score ways that you can do a goiter. And so there are a few factors we're going to look at, and it's the same actually with aerials, or similar with aerials. It's not exactly the same, but what we're looking at here is on the takeoff, how critical it is. And we can see that it's not very critical. He's not actually in the lip. It's more like jumping down from the lip. And so what we want to look at is how critical is the takeoff? How much projection up and out is he getting? And so projection up into the air and projection out in front of the wave are both really important. And so projection up and in front of the wave are the main factors. So you could have a aerial or a goiter that doesn't go a lot higher than the lip, but goes way in front of the wave, and that's getting a lot of projection, even though it's not going above the lip, because it's about up and also in front. So this is not a lot of projection. He's more like jumping down from the wave. It's more of a like a paunch on the wave. So this would be the lowest scoring category of goiter. We're going to see a few other goiters in this heat, and we'll be able to analyze them. And there's some wow, beautiful under the lip turn. So what am I looking for when I'm judging this turn? I'm looking at the quality of the bottom turn. I'm looking at how big the wave is. I'm looking at how critical the section is that he's going into. So I'm looking at, right, like there's this very nice critical section here. He's driving his board up onto the lip, and beautiful timing. And then boom. So this now is a different category of goiter. Let's look at this again. So we're going a little telegraphed, but coming into a critical section of lip, right? Critical section of lip he's hitting, and he's getting projected by the wave up and in front. And now it's not the most radical goiter ever, but it is very clean. It's off the lip. So that's going to be a level higher than the one we saw from Robbie. Says, wow, beautiful. I mean, this is just, I love this from Burned. Look at this. I mean, this big wave, much bigger wave than the other ones, fully committed bottom turn coming up under this section. So coming up under the section is always going to be more difficult. It should score higher than coming sideways to the section. Under it, getting projected out in front, right into another turn. Beautiful. This wave, he ends up, I don't want to spoil it. He ends up going for something. If he just done some turns there, I think he would have won the competition. I think if he came out of that big hit into some turns, he would have won the competition. Wow, another big air. That one's less under the lip, so it's not, shouldn't really score as high, though. They gave it, I think, a higher score there. All right, here's another wave from Brazinho. That turn just isn't fully working. You can see that the rails are not fully. There's something that's kind of forced in that cutback. Let's watch that again. And again, this is no criticism for Brazinho. He can do some of the most amazing turns on the water, but there's something in this one where it just gets a little stuck. Manages to come into the second one, gets a nice tweaked air. A kind of two-turn wave, scoring a 6, I think, was par for the course for this event. Here's Burned. That's his second turn. Beautiful. And he manages to get one more. A little bit. And another one. Yeah. Solid. Wow. This hit is really impressive. Like, they could have given this one more points. I think that's a fair score for this wave. This one, this like under the lip, boom, hitting it, boom. They could have given that more points. That was as hard as any 360 or goiter. And then that nice little hit. It's hard. He falls on this. Yeah, completion is not supposed to be a big factor, but it does end up being a factor. And so Burned falling on that last aerial did hurt that wave. I think if he'd landed that aerial again, he might have won the contest. All right, we got Dan in the chat. Joe as well. Joe says 360 versus goiter. 360 is harder and should be scored higher, but would you say that judges score them roughly even? I don't know if 360s are harder or goiters are harder. It's interesting because there are people who can do 360s but not goiters, and maybe the other way around. So for a long time, goiters were considered harder and the pinnacle of wave tricks. But now that more people are doing goiters, I think we've realized that goiters are maybe a little easier. Again, it depends on the section. So like the bigger the wave, the easier the 360 is, the scarier the goiter is. Um, So like on a mass plus wave, I can go for a 360. I'm not going to go for a goiter. But on the smaller waves, it's a lot easier to go for goiters than to do 360s. And if you have a good goiter technique, you can land them very consistently, whereas 360s are much harder to be consistent. But they were not scored evenly in this event. 360s were scored higher than the goiters, but pretty close. But that change was, or that judging is a change, because I thought this wave was a little overscored. It's a nice wave, but compared to the other waves that we've seen before, which are all lower scores, because this is sorted in a wave, so it's all getting higher scores. Like I thought the other waves from Burned, the two hit waves from Burned and Brasinho were at least as good as that, if not better. Beautiful 360 from Bern Roediger. Um, Joe says that people compare 360s and goiters to back loops and push loops. I don't like that comparison. This is a great wave. This is the best wave of the heat by far. This one from Morgan. And what are we looking at? What are we looking at? So when we're judging, let's judge a bit on the 360. So there's a 360 coming up from Bern that we can look at, and then we'll compare the other 360 from Morgan. I mean, this turn, and he manages to get another hit. Like, for me, this should have scored higher than Morgan's other wave, but then he falls at the end here. I think if he hadn't fallen, that would have been the contest. He would have won it. And I'm a fan of Morgan. I'm not being too critical, but just if I compare this two hit wave to these other waves, I don't see it being that much higher. So this 360, look, he's under the lip, critical section. And then similar to like goiters and aerials, we want to evaluate how much projection is he getting up and in front of the wave. So the projection in front of the wave is very important. Look at how much projection he gets in front of the wave. He's landing mid-face. So when you're talking about landings, you can either land behind, on top of it, mid-face, or in the flats. And in the flats is the pinnacle of all lip projection moves. That was a mid-face landing, which definitely solid. Very critical takeoff. Let's look at Morgan's. All right, here's Morgan's. He's coming up. By the way, it looks like my camera is flickering off sometimes. When that happens, can you guys still hear me? Let me know if you can still hear me when that happens. We got Ragnar in the chat. Thank you for being here. We got Dan Bim as well. Thank you for being here. All right, so let's check this one out from Morgan. So not as critical of a section at all. Gets a lot of projection up. He's above the lip, but not a lot of projection in front. So he lands on top of the wave, but very clean, comes out of this little floater and goes right into another move, gets the beautiful arch back. Aerial, this is by far the best wave of that heat. So definitely the best wave of the heat. I would have scored some of the other waves maybe a little bit differently, like I said, but I think that the outcome is fair. I think there was a way it could have been scored where it would have been a lot closer between Burned and Morgan, like right now, and Brasinho, actually. Like right now, this point spread that they have, it's like a point and a half that Morgan had over, where was it? A point and a half over Burned, and then Burned was a point and a half over Brasinho. I think actually they were a lot closer. If I had been judging it, it would have been a lot closer, but I think that this order is fine. It could be, you could be arguing some little variations, but I think mostly this is totally fair. Um, but I think in my scoring, it was actually closer, which is weird because I would also score it with more spread. I think that these judges didn't do a great job of having a wide spread. So in general, when you've got your scale, it should be out of 10. And it seemed like these judges were really judging like 4 to 6. There were not a lot of waves under 4 and not a lot of waves over 6. And then with that compressed scale, then there's more margin for error. So it's kind of funny what I'm saying, that I would increase the scale, increase the spread, but at the same time, I think that it would be closer. I think it's closer than what the scores look like. All right. So ask me your questions in the chat, and also let me know when my camera goes off. Can you still hear me? We've got a question from Dan. Dan says, "What is my opinion on one hit waves? Should they be more?" So my general answer is that how it was done in this contest was how it should be. So if you did a really big one move, it was somewhere between a 5 and a 6, like those really big one hits. I think that's totally fair, and it's also how it's always been. Some of these, like I think this one from Morgan was a 4-8 or whatever it is. What is it? We can see. No, less 4. So some of these goiters were scoring pretty low. Uh, I had, I can't. I'm trying to remember if I had any one hit waves. I had one like just big aerial that was, I think, like a 4-8 or something. But in general, we want to see linked waves, and it is so much harder. It is so much harder to link even just 2 maneuvers together on a wave than to set up the whole wave for one hit. Like, it's astronomically harder to link 2 turns than to just do 1 turn. And we want to reward that flow, and it's a lot about reading waves, being in touch with waves, finding that rhythm. So I don't think that one hit waves should score more unless the conditions are really set up for that. There's just one peak, but in general, these waves, you can get 2 hits pretty easily, and so I think that one hit waves should not score more. It should not score more. Now, there's some exception there, right? Where if it's just the most amazing thing anybody's ever seen, just a crazy radical, that should get a pretty good score. But it shouldn't. In general, it's about linking, and that's one of the things that's so great about this last wave from Morgan. Let's watch that again. One of the things that's so great about this wave from Morgan, beautiful 360. One of these, so like, all right, so here's another little lesson. So if we look at this wave, this 360 wave from Burned, okay, it's an amazing 360, right? He's under the lip, boom, boom, boom. But then he comes in, misses this section. He's got a pump. There's a disconnect here, right? Before he goes into his next turn. Ideally, we want to see maneuver flowing into maneuver flowing into maneuver. And that's something that Morgan does really well here. Just gets right back on the wave, boom, right into the next hit. So there's a really beautiful flow that's going on there. So just to finish on the 360 goiter discussion that Joe brought up, there's a lot of people that can do 360s and can't do goiters. Goiters are hard to learn, but once you can do them, they're maybe easier than the 360s in some conditions, in a lot of conditions, not all conditions. There's a kind of goiter you can do, like that first one we saw from Robbie Swift, where you're not really getting projection off the wave, and those are easier. But in general, I don't know. It's really hard to say that whether 360s are easier than goiters or goiters are easier than 360s. It depends on the conditions. Goiters are pretty difficult, and there's not that many people in the world that can do consistent goiters. I mean, I remember when I started windsurfing, no one in the world could do consistent goiters, but there were people in the world that could do consistent 360s. And I think Levi and Cowley were the first that were really pushing getting consistent at those tricks. And then I was the next generation, me and Brazinho, and we were the first generation where being consistent at those tricks was something that people had in their repertoire. Like I had that, Brazinho had that, and yeah, now that's starting to be more common to have that consistency. But yeah, it's really difficult to say. There's different kinds of 360s. There's different kind of goiters. So it's hard for me to say in the say like I would say that back loops almost always should score higher than push loops, but I'm not going to make a claim on three season goiters. It's just different. It's hard to say. Like there's different kinds of 360s. There's different kind of goiters, and you want to look at how critical they are coming up into the lip, how heavy the lip is, and how much projection you're getting. I don't know. They're both hard. We've got Gonzalo in the chat from Matanzas. Nice. Good to have you here. All right, we're gonna load up the Facebook group, get into the questions on Facebook, and yeah, keep going. You guys can interrupt me if you have any questions. If you want to level up your windsurfing, you can go to my.windsurfingmasterclass.com. Check out the Learn to Loop course, Fast Tack Secrets, Pro Mindset Secrets. We've also got the Shove It course as well. If you go to windsurfingmasterclass.com, you can find this by going. I'm updating in the process of updating this website, so this is not going to look the same in a week or two. You can go to the learning portal where we just were by clicking here. You can book one-on-one coaching here. And then if you want to support this live stream in the Facebook community, you can go here, down here, and there's ways that you can do that. All right, let's get back into the Facebook group. Let's go most recent new posts. Before we get into this post from Ragnar, a bit of housekeeping to do. So the master classes, the in-person master classes for next week, next year, not next week, are being, so there's only one that is fully confirmed, and that is Morocco, and it's already starting to fill up. The spots are already starting to fill up. If you want to join Morocco, there's going to be 1 week this year, 13th of June to the 21st of June. We have scored the last 2 years. It's an epic place to windsurf, very consistent wind and waves. We're going for a longer window this time just to get the most out of the conditions. We're going to be there for 9 days total in the masterclass window. And so this is a premier masterclass location. If you want good waves, consistent winds, this is a go-to masterclass. For the other masterclasses that we're doing in 2026, I don't have a calendar decided yet, and you can help shape it. So this survey here, if you click this survey, you can fill it out. It takes like a minute, 30 seconds. It's just this. You put in your name and where you want to go. So these are kind of the options that I'm looking at. So seems like there's interest for Cape Town in January. And if there's enough interest, I will do all the flights from Maui to get to Cape Town because I love Cape Town. And we'll do a masterclass in Cape Town. Seems like there's enough interest. I think we've got at the moment from this survey, it seems like enough interest. And so if you want to make this happen, click that. In Maui in April, I have an idea. This is something that was requested about the doing a big wave training on Maui. And so that would mean learning how to do rescues. It would mean going up to jaws on the boat, sailing big waves. And it's something that really excites me because I love big waves and I love opening that up for people. This one is going to have a higher cost. It's going to have a higher ability level needed for entry, but it's going to be very, very exciting. This is kind of like the Everest of windsurfing and getting you there. Then Maui in May, this would be early May, and there's a group that's interested in this. It depends. This is a little bit tight on my schedule, but again, if there's enough interest, I will make it happen. Then otherwise, Oregon in May. This one is also harder to organize, so there needs to be the interest or it's just not going to happen because this is difficult to organize, but it's going to be an amazing trip if it happens. Oregon coast is beautiful, great windsurfing in May. We'll have a mobile masterclass in some camper vans, doing the whole course, doing the whole coast. Amazing. Morocco in June, this is confirmed. This is happening. If you want to be in Morocco, sign up because the spots are already starting to fill up. Gran Canaria, late July. We went in late July this year. We had great conditions. Tenerife in August. Madagascar in August. So Madagascar is somewhere that I've been. Amazing windsurfing. It's so consistent, so much fun, and it is an adventure. And some people lately have been requesting a masterclass there, and I would love to go back to Madagascar. It's been 10 years since I was there, and I would love to go back. It's really great windsurfing, lots of fun, and like I said, what an adventure. Denmark in September, there's a lot of interest for this. It seems like I'm going to make that happen again, and then it's going to be sold out. So if you want to do Denmark, fill out this survey because too many people who have said they want to do Denmark in September. So already there's going to be a waiting list. So if you want to get on this, make sure that you fill this survey out because these are the first people that I'm going to reach out to. And then Maui again in September. We did some Maui coaching this last September. It went great. And then Japan. I'm thinking of going to Japan this year and mainly just coaching locals. But I would love to open that up for non-Japanese as well for next year. So Japan, amazing windsurfing, amazing culture. And okay, last question. Sometimes people don't know how. Okay, well, two last questions. If there's something that you want to suggest, this is the place to do it. And in general, how would you describe your expectations? Traveling for a masterclass trip, pay less, get less, pay more, get more. This is important for me to know because then I know how to structure the masterclass, everything around it. So, everyone has different financial situation and expectations. And if you want to be focused on budget accommodation, whatever, then that's something that I can try to provide. If you want something that's nicer, obviously it costs more, and that's also something I can provide. So just having that information is a lot better um, for me because then I can plan and organize trips that fit with what you want. We've got some comments here. So Christoph is asking about an update for the masterclass locations. People to fill it in. I think we had like 30 people so far fill it in, which gives me a pretty good overview of where the demand is. But I'm pretty sure we'll get a few more. So I'm not going to make any decisions till I get about maybe like 50 people or something. Or if for any one of these individual locations, if I get 10 plus people, like right now, like Denmark, I think it's something like 14 or 15 people are interested in it, which is too many for the masterclass. Which is why I'm saying if you're interested in Denmark, definitely fill this out. But anyway, so no conclusions yet from this, except that Denmark will happen because of this. I'm not sure exactly how I make it happen. It's a little bit tricky timing wise, but I will make it work. Ragnar says Morocco. Yeah, Ragnar, I think I think that you would like Morocco. I think that you would like Morocco. It's a pretty awesome spot. Joe is saying that Madagascar just had a military coup and is very unstable. When I was there 10 years ago, it was without a president. The president had just abandoned ship. So, yeah, not very stable. Dan says, speaking of Denmark and contests, we had a blast this week running the Danish Open. Uh, if you've never been competing yourself and you wonder how the experience is, just join it next time. Yeah, this is great. So if you want to join the Danish Open, you are welcome to. I think that's a great idea. I love it. Christoph is saying, what about a Learn to Loop masterclass in the Gorge? It's a great idea. Not something I considered. When does the Gorge work? I think of it always as a summer spot, like June, July, August. Would it have to be in that window? What do you think? All right, let's get to the Facebook group and see. All right, Facebook group. Let's go. New post. Boom. All right, so first up, we have this. He's working on going more vertical in cross onshore. This one felt more vertical than it looks in the video. Isn't that always the case? Isn't that always the case? Trick for going vertical in onshore is really sheeting out. You have to sheet out so aggressively in order to get back up the wave. You have to sheet out so aggressively. But what I do like seeing here, Ragnar, is the speed of the redirection. And so if we're looking at how quickly your board redirects, you're doing a very good job of going from the bottom turn, boom, into the top turn, capturing that speed. I would like to see, so in terms of coaching on this, so the first thing is I love the effort. I love the quickness of the redirect. You're really picking up that power, getting that high five. I would like to see there's a little bit of a redirection that you're doing yourself. I don't want to see that. I want to see you keep this radius. So if we if we look at the radius of the turn, there's a moment where you break the radius. We don't want to do that. So this beautiful radius, great. Now this moment right here, you break the radius and you start preparing for your cutback. I want you to just keep this radius going right up into the wave, right up into the whitewater, instead of anticipating that and turning before you actually hit the wave. So does that make sense? It's a pretty kind of subtle distinction, but hopefully it's clear. So Ragnar, let me know in the chat that that is clear. All right, next up, we have a question from Marco about priority. Yeah, so this was a heat that I was in, and there was a fight between Kai and Antoine. Whew. So it got pretty heated between the two of them. And so there's some background here. So the head judge changed the priority rules in the first skipper meeting. So the rules before were something that I was involved in writing because we were not happy with the old rules because there were some issues that would come up into play. And so we had a sailors meeting with all the wave sailors. I was on the board of the PWA at the time. And so we said, okay, how can we come up with a rule that fixes the problems that we have? And the old rule was just the first person on the swell. So the first person powered by the swell is the one that has the priority on that wave. But that was creating problems. And so the solution that we came up with, and this is something that, again, I was very involved with, but it was a very collaborative process of coming up with a new rule. So the rule was the first person over a line of swell has priority for the next line of swell. So if you've got two lines of swell, the first person over this wave then has priority for this wave. And that works really well for Hokipa as well, because oftentimes the waves are moving so fast that you're attacking you're tacking on the crest of the wave in front of the wave that you want to catch to give you room to get on it. And so the problem with the old priority rule was that you could tack there like you normally would. So you're over that first line, you're going for the second one, and someone could sail out behind you, jibe, and be on that next swell first, and technically have priority on it. Uh, and so anyway, so the rules that we changed to, that's not the case. The head judge changed it back to the old rules. And I was in the skipper meeting and I brought up all the problems that we had, but he didn't listen to me. And so what happened between Kai and Antoine, you don't actually see in play because there was a wave before this. So we're gonna watch this, but there was actually another wave. So in this one, so we don't actually see who's really on the wave first. Beautiful turn. Kai is ripping. Kai could really do well in this event. He's really ripping. But let's see the priority issue here. Okay, so, but like I said, the real problem was actually not on the set that we see here. It was on so I was struggling. This is me. I was struggling with my timing. I kept thinking that the waves were gonna throw more, but you can see like it's just kind of mushing. Like I was expecting to come up and I was gonna hit this section, but then it just didn't project me at all. It wasn't throwing yet. And then it's not even throwing top to bottom. It's like crumbling over. And I was getting kind of stuck here. And then the wave like wasn't really breaking. I was getting very confused. So yeah, I was a little frustrated there. So somewhere here we can see the intro to that priority issue. Okay, so here it is. But like I said, there was an issue before all of this, which I'll go back and try to find. So I don't think we can see it from this video, but on this wave, Antoine was on it first by like any measure. He was on it first. And there is a video of it that I guess you can, that we saw, that the writer saw, that there's in a Dropbox somewhere, so I'll try and find it and put it in the Facebook group. But I want to see if there's a video of the other instance, because what happened was it was the first set of the heat and there was a priority issue that I believe the confusion was caused by the change in the priority rules. But we might not see it. The problem with these priority things is they take place on the outside. And so here you can see that they're on. You don't see what happened before. So you can see that there's a bit of an argument. And so then what happened was then Kai was really frustrated by this. And so then that led into the other situation being a problem, because in the other one, Antoine was on it first very clearly, but in this one, it was a lot less clear, and that lack of clarity was caused by the change in the priority rules. Nice wave from Antoine. This one, this is me. Yeah, so I thought I was going to get a really good open wave. I was just reading the waves wrong in this. Like, what I should have done in retrospect is tried to get a turn there. I could have got at least two turns on this wave, but I thought, oh, it's walling up. I'm going to do an aerial, get down to the bottom section, and then it just was closed out. I thought there was going to be more down there. So what I should have done is ridden this peak. I could have gotten at least two turns, like one turn here and one turn on the next part, maybe even three. Um, I mean, this is walling up pretty fast, but still, get a turn there. Yeah, could have got. I mean, it's kind of closing out. Bad wave selection, I guess. All right, let's get back to the Facebook group. In general, with priority, every spot has its own rules, and it's really important to ask the locals what the rules are and to respect them. And I think that locals get a bad rep. You want to give locals priority and don't assume that you know how it works. All right, so here are all the waves from the final, and I want to know which is your favorite. It seems like most people are saying Morgan's 360 into aerial. Seems pretty clear. Yeah, Paul really liked these two waves. All right, what are your questions? Let's get over it. Max is asking if there was an argument between Kai and Antoine on the beach. Yes, there was. All right, so questions. My insights into the Aloha Classic. Greg, we've been kind of talking about that. If there's anything else that you want to ask that I haven't gone over, ask me. Bradley asked what scores higher, a wave 360 or a goiter. They were scoring wave 360s higher than goiters at this Aloha Classic. But in different years, it's been different. I remember Thomas Traversa did a goiter on a little wave like 10 years ago, and they gave him like a 9 because they weren't used to seeing so many goiters. Definitely changed since then. Evgeny says he usually sails with a high boom and long harness lines. When he switched to wave sailing, lower boom to chest height, he ends up in a really awkward crouched position. Do most wave sailors shorten their harness lines for this? Yes, I would say. You know, I use 28s. Kevin Pritchard, who is way taller than me and he's got long arms, thought he was using 30s, and I checked his boom and he was also using 28s. So if you're using 34s and you're not really long in the arm, maybe go shorter. Um, Greg is pretty tall, uses 32 and a loose harness. All right. Brandon asked, duck jibe, any pointers and tips? Gave it a go a few times last week. I think it might be easier for me than the sail flip minus. I fumble up the footwork a lot on both. Okay, so yeah, I do have a tip for duck jibes, and that tip is to get a big board or borrow a big board, like a learner board, like a starboard go in some light wind with a pretty small sail, and just practice the sail flips. So ducking under the sail, doing sail 360s, practice the sail flips. Do that a few times, and we're getting in a lot of reps. You're flipping the sail 100 times in a session at least, and then you start to understand how to flip the sail. And so lighter wind, you want to do it in like 10 to 15 knots. You want some wind so you have power in the sail. You don't want just no wind. Though you could set up your sail in the garden with no wind and just practice the flips to start with. But once you start getting comfortable with that motion, then having the wind is helpful, because then it's good at self-correcting you. Like if you're doing it wrong, it will pull it out of your hands. But in the beginning, you can start just practicing the flips in your garden. And then you want to do it on a big board, on the water, in not much wind. And yeah, you will quickly improve your duck jibes if you do that. All right, we've got another post from Bradley, and he got some footage from a friend with a phone. And I really recommend this. If you've got a friend on the beach, just have them film you. Boom. Let's watch. Footage doesn't have to be from a pro, doesn't have to be anything else. So Bradley's question was mainly about speed. And there is one main thing that you can do different, Bradley. Two main things, but one we're going to talk about. Well, I'll talk about both. So the first, which is kind of the least important one, is you want to start at a power section. So right now you're starting not at a power section over here, and that's okay. You caught the wave over there, but you want to hustle and bustle to get your little butt over here on this power section. This is where the power is. And so if you're starting on the power section, you're going to start with a lot more speed. And so this is where the power is. And the second thing, this is the to focus on, though they're both important, why both be the main things, is you want to stay high on the wave. The higher on the wave you are, the more energy you have, the more potential energy, the more energy you're getting from the wave, the more speed you're going to have. So if we look at this, you're starting at mid-face. We want to start at the top of the wave. In fact, you're starting more at the bottom of the wave once you go into the bottom turn. And we want to start at the top, drop into the wave. That's going to give you a lot of speed. So it's really starting at the power section, which actually you do kind of hurry over and get there to that power section. But then starting from the top of the wave, dropping in, or even going down the line a little bit from the top of the wave, it's going to get you a lot of speed. So starting from the bottom of the wave is not going to get you a lot of speed. So if we're looking for speed, it's all about being on the top of the wave. Give you another example. Let's look at the other wave. We got Brad in the chat. So here you're higher on the wave and you've got a lot more speed. So this is, you know how to do it. You could still start higher, but like this moment, you're starting to think about the bottom turn. You're a lot closer to the top of the wave than in the other video. You're also starting at the power source. So if we're looking at where the wave is peaking, you're dropping in on a peak. So you're getting a lot more speed from the wave, and then you're coming up to the top of the wave again, and coming up to the top, getting speed, dropping in, going into that bottom turn. So this second turn is also a good example of, let's go back to the beginning of that turn. So you're at the top of the wave, dropping in, getting all that speed, going into the next turn, and then boom, hitting this section, getting that high five, going from a power section to a power section. And this is working really well. This is beautiful. I love this. This is great surfing. You're like using the power of the wave. You're in the power section. This is a great example. So do more of this. This is a good example of what to do. You do know what to do. And so it's a lot about making sure you're starting at a power section, you're going to a power section, and then staying high on the wave, If you drop down in front of the wave, then you're going to have a lot less speed. So you want to stay high on the wave. All right, next up, we got a question about seat harness. Jan says, who says you can't use a seat harness in a waves? Yeah, a lot of people do use seat harnesses in the waves. Bernd is using one now. It's funny because he was using a chest harness not that long ago. Pretty opposites. Yeah. All right, here's the surveys. Again, if you want to shape the masterclasses in 2026, fill out this. In Morocco in 2026, fill out this application. Mitchie asks, he wants to fly from Munich to Hawaii in the summer. Does anyone have any tips for airlines? Experience with rental cars, living on sites. For airlines, I think Condor is really good with gear. I fly Lufthansa United, and I have mostly good experiences, but I have had a couple rough moments with the gear over the years. So I fly, like I said, I fly Star Alliance. I have status with them, which helps me. So mostly I have a very good experience with the gear. If you don't have status, I'm not sure exactly how it is. So I'm used to flying like Lufthansa United out of Europe. Condor, I think, is very good with the gear. If you can find the flights. For rental cars, either North Shore Rental, owned by Marcilio Brown and Robbie Swift, or Chemo's Rent-A-Car, something like that. For living, shoot me a message or go to Pritchard Windsurfing and shoot them an email. So that's like if you want one paragraph of Maui tips, how to get here, etc. It's this. If you're staying for long enough, it might be worth buying a car rather than renting one. All right, so we got a question, or this is not a question. This is one of my one-handed goiters from the event. This is me landing a one-handed goiter. It got a, yeah, 6.87. So this one did get a very good score. I had two more turns after this, so it wasn't just the one hit move. And they really liked the one-handed aspect. I think, although I don't want to speak incorrectly, but I think I was the only one doing one-handed goiters in the event. I don't know if anyone else was doing one-handed goiters. And so they liked to see the added difficulty of the one hand off. You can see I'm doing it kind of conservatively. Most of the time I try to really straighten that arm that's off, and I've got it kind of hooked ready to grab on again. So I would like to see it in terms of my own style a lot more, like the arm extended. Uh, yeah, so I would like to see, my own arm extended more. But still, I was pretty happy to stomp this one in the heat. And like I said, I followed it up with um, some more turns. Yeah, I love this move. These feel so good. I think I was one of the first, or I know I was one of the first people to really start doing these. I don't know if I was the first one ever to think Dione might have been the first one to try it. And I know that Bujma was also pretty early in that development. And then uh, John Sky and Brazinho also were pretty early. And so we were the first group of people doing the one-handed ones. But I was definitely, yeah, one of the first, if not the first, to get these. That was like back in 2000s. I remember I was in high school, I guess. Pretty young. All right. Next up, so here's a scary moment. Yeah, Camille collided with a kiter. This was pretty gnarly. So look at this. So he hits the lip. The kiter's here, not really aware of him. The kiter hits like a piece of chop and falls. And then we're getting kind of like and then Camille hits the line here, and it hits his ear, and it like, wow, there's the moment it hits the ear, right here. You can see it. Boom! Look at that, and it just basically tore the ear off. He had to get a whole bunch of stitches, in his ear. You can see it. I was on the beach at the time. What you don't see is like this cut goes all the way up, like from here up into the middle of his ear. It was pretty gnarly. In my opinion, windsurfers always have priority over kiters, and surfers always have priority over windsurfers. Pretty gnarly to see. All right, we've got a question from Giles. He is going to Nauru in November, and he wonders if anyone else is going there and if you want to collab together. Sounds like a great trip. So if you're going to Western Oz or thinking about it in late November, reach out to Giles. All right, this is, yeah, one of my heats. And I think we did talk about this last time. So we are all caught up. So again, on the admin stuff, if you want to join a masterclass next year, I do recommend filling out this survey. I'm going to pin this to the top. Pin to featured. Does that work? Pin to featured. So that's right. It should be right at the top. So if you want to join one of these, what if I can put it on the top also? I thought there was a way I could put this on the top. Anyway, it's in there. You can find it. And if you want to join a masterclass, I really recommend doing that. If you know anyone that wants to improve their tacks or loops, then go to learntoloop.com or my.windsurfingmasterclass.com. Greg is saying that Camille shouldn't have committed to that aerial for self-preservation. I don't know. I think it's really difficult to, because what happened was the kiter hit the chop. It wasn't like he was trying to block Camille. So if the kiter hadn't hit the chop, like the kiter was very oblivious. And just because the kiter is oblivious, I think it's not quite fair to say give up the wave. In retrospect, yeah, it did end up being very dangerous for Camille, and maybe he shouldn't have committed to that line. But it's also the kiter's responsibility as well. So I don't know. Kiters always need to be responsible for their lines. So if you know anyone that wants to improve their tacks or learn to loop, you can go to the my.windsurfingmasterclass.com platform or just learntoloop.com. And yeah, the tech course has an amazing success rate. Learn to loop is newer, but we're approaching the same success rate. We've got a great community going in the WhatsApp group for Learn to Loop. All of those things are firing. So if you are interested in that, I've got a couple of more things. So there were some suggestions about doing local windsurfing masterclass groups, local windsurfing masterclass pods, where we're doing a WhatsApp group and Zoom coaching, and I'm providing exercises and challenges for the group. I think it's interesting. We have some pods that are interested, and around the world. If that's something that seems interesting for you, look out for that, because I'm gonna do some announcements, some feelers in the group. All right, everyone.